Welcome back, everyone. I just thought I'd put this out there. It's doing a review on the Maxtrax tire Indeflate. This the deflate portion of it. There'll be the inflate version that'll come out a bit later, but I'd rather split it into two and then do an overall view of it. So before any ado, well, let's get stuck into it. And obviously, please subscribe for more, because we're going to be doing a lot more product reviews as things go along, with some trips planned coming up as well. We're going to be reviewing some products, as well as doing some videoing from recovery work as well. So some good things to look forward to coming up soon as well. As well as some educational videos that we'll be putting out in between some of those. So normal disclaimer, I don't need to do too much into that. And then this is the video I've done. So I've just muted it because I was talking in it, but because there's a lot of background noise, I've just muted it, and I will talk through what we're doing. So essentially, here is the Indeflate. I was fortunate enough to be one of the members. Bill gave me his Indeflate Maxtrax version so that I could test it out, and I wanted to be able to test it out at a location, as you can see, at a service station here, where I had the opportunity to be able to test it with not only with varying tires at different pressures, but with different pressure gauges to be able to check it out. So as you can see, that's so I got the two different tire deflation pressure gauges. So there's one there from SCA. You can see that was a digital version, so it gives you a digital readout. And there's so it's at the moment 0. So you can I think I put it on, I check the current pressure of that tire. I think I preset this one to a little lower than my other side, because normally it's a 44 psi reading. So this one we check, and I think it's 35. So I was at 35 and the other side's 44. So I made it offset. This is another common used pressure gauge, cheap, but as you can see, a bit blurry at first, but similar readout. I do like the SCA. It does give you a precise with a percentage marker, but it can suffer from low when you're looking at low values. Anyway, so that's the Maxtrax dual deflator. So the concept is that you can hook it onto, that's the gauge there. When the video clears itself up, there we go. We've got kph on the outside and PSI on the inside. So, and you've got two of those connected. So you attach them onto your tire. So attach one onto one side. This tells me what the current PSI is when you attach it on. I'm trying to let the video focus properly. So that tells me that it's roughly on par with what the pressure gauges were registering, and we're going to swing around and we're going to attach the other end to the other side of the tire. So I paused it while I switched it around to the other side. So it's paused, I've attached it, and now we're going to start the deflation process. So to deflate it, as it says there, you can see the readout is now sitting around about the 40 mark, which is what it is. So to deflate, you pull that device down there. You can see that my hand's on. It's like a cylinder-looking thing. You push it at the bottom. That's how you attach to inflate. And that little device my hand's on it's easy just to slide up and slide down. So when you slide it down, it deflates, and when you slide it up, it gives you a reading of the pressure gauge. So as it's down, it's deflating the tire, so you can just put it down and walk away if you really wanted to. As it's deflating, you don't actually get a readout, which would be fantastic if it actually told you as it deflated what the pressure was. There's holes, as I show you here, if it doesn't blur too much. There you go. There's a hole on either side right there that allows the air to come out, and that's what that device, where you slide it up and slide it down. So while it's on, both tires are deflating at a rate, and the concept is that as it deflates, that it's going to deflate down to whatever pressure, but the pressure is going to be equal. So I've slid it up, and it's saying that it's sitting on just over 20 psi, so around about, looks like 22 psi. So, which is, I generally go down to around about 20 starting. Well, that's my starting pressure off road, but I fluctuate depending on the surface. So I'd say that's where I'd sit. So what I'm going to do now to see whether or not it works is I paused the video and attached everything, and I got my pressure gauges out to check what the pressure was on both the tires. So I start on one side, so that one was saying it's 22.5, so that's the other side. And then I walked around to check this side to see whether or not. So as remembered, one side was 35, one side was 44. Check the pressure on this side, reading the same, 22.5. And now I also wanted to check whether or not, because I was at the servo, I wanted to make sure we're getting an accurate reading on the devices. I think I do check with the other pressure gauge and the servo one. So with the servo version, I put it back up to what I would want what I normally sit at, 44, which is what my tires are rated for. And I attach it whilst I try and keep the video focused on the actual readout, so you can sort of see as soon as it changes. Yeah, 22. Sorry about the shaking there. It's trying to attach it and also while I held it in place. So it was 22. So I guess that was a pretty good accurate reading. Both tires were showing 22, and when I checked with the tire pressure on both sides, it was 22. I even tried this one to see whether it gave us a similar readout, and so we checked this one from 0, and when we move it out of the way, you can see there it's sitting just roughly around that 22 range as well, so it's pretty close. So I would say that on the deflate aspect of the Indeflate, it worked exactly as advertised. I thought it was pretty nifty. Didn't take that long, as you saw in the video, even with the pause between like moving things. The actual video itself, when I was pulling down the thing to let the air out, you could actually see that that's how fast it went out. So it was very quick. I was actually going to time it, so you could see how quick the time went. But within it was minutes, less than minutes. It actually took to get it to 22, it was 22 from 44. So that's pretty good. And both tires were equal, regardless of the fact that one tire was slightly different from the other. So next step of this obviously is to check and test the inflation capability. But as you can see, the deflation was pretty much on the money with the pressure reading. So I would say that it works rather well. Much better, I think, than the valve removal devices where you're having to do each wheel separately and having to check it isn't as easy as this one where you just slide it up and you get a reading straight away. The valve one, you're obviously having to push it in and get a check and then keep going and get a check. So sometimes some wheels can slightly be off. This way, at least you're getting two equal tire pressures on both sides. And if you're doing a 4-way, I guess you're going to get equal across all 4. So I do like that device, the fact that it slides up and slides down pretty easy. So as soon as you slide it down, you're deflating. As soon as you slide it up, you get your pressure reading straight away. So in my books, I think it's a pretty good device. Even though it is kind of expensive, I think you're getting the value for the kind of product that you're looking at, and the accuracy is right up there. So next part of the test will be the inflation aspect of it, and checking to see whether or not it works in the advertised fashion, the same as it did with the deflation fashion, really. So I think that's actually pretty much on time with the end of the video anyway. I'll talk through this whole video exactly as I did now, but I didn't want all the background noise, so I thought I'd do this separately. So I'm going to pause that there because that's pretty much the end of it, and just skip along to the end. So essentially, as I mentioned, that deflates it regardless of the fact that they're differing tying pressure on both sides. Like one was, as I mentioned, different tires with different pressures, but they both came down to the 22, so it was great, and it came down within a really quick time frame. I think it was, if we were looking at the timing, if I went back and looked at the video, I think it was about a minute and a half. Less than that, actually, I think, if we looked at the time. It's the only thing I forgot to do. I might do that when I go off-road again and update this with an actual time as well. But being able to deflate and pressure read is accurate to a degree, so I think that's really good. And I was able to test that with the 3 different measuring devices, including the service station system. So that read out across the board, all 3 seem to be pretty much on par with each other. So I'd say that's accurate. And the only disadvantage I would put there is the fact that you can't see in real time how the deflation is going, so you can know exactly when you want to stop rather than sliding up, checking where you are, and then sliding back down. That's the only disappointing thing that I would put with it. But I mean, hey, I don't know of any other device out there that actually does do that, and how to manage something like that, who knows. But hey, I still think it's more efficient and way better managed than valve removing devices. And I think it also saves the valves themselves as well, because I think valve removing, I've noticed personally, valve removing is sort of ruining or having some detrimental effect to my valve. So I steer away from that. And I'm thinking this device personally, I think, is something I'm going to be looking at, whether it's an Maxtrax version or other one. I might test out another one and time them and test them to see whether they also measure up with pressure readings and also time right. It'd be good to test them against another brand to see if they work the same way. So you guys got something to measure against, so you know what you're paying for and brand wise. And as I mentioned, we'll be testing the inflate aspect of it separately, and then linking these 2 together so you can assess both points of view, and you can go whether or not this is the product and whether or not you're willing to pay the money for something that's going to work for you on both points of view, because you're going to have to inflate after you deflate. So, and there's also a shout out and thanks to Bill for lending me the Maxtrax Indeflate to be able to test that and do this video up in the first place. So I appreciate that, and we'll be having some more coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. Thanks everyone for tuning in for this one, and be listening out for the next one.